Hillary Clinton has said that Brexit was won on a big lie, as she claimed failing to secure a deal with the European Union would put Britain at a very big disadvantage. The losing presidential candidate added that the vote to leave the EU, and specifically the false claims made by Leave campaigners, were a forerunner to her defeat to Donald Trump in last year's U.S. election. Mrs. Clinton accused the likes of Nigel Farage of giving fabricated information to voters during the referendum and raised the role of data mining and analysis company Cambridge Analytica. An investigation was launched by the Information Commissioner's Office into the firm after complaints the Leave EU campaign, backed by Mr. Farage, had not declared its role in its campaign. Mrs. Clinton said looking at the Brexit vote now, it was a precursor to some extent of what happened to us in the United States. Whatever the role Cambridge Analytica played, for example. But the amount of fabricated, false information that your voters were given by the Leave campaign. Hillary Clinton said she believed Brexit was a precursor to Donald Trump's success in the U.S. election. Reuters. She added, "You had, Mr. Farage campaigning for Trump and the like. The big lie is a very potent tool, and we've somewhat kept it at bay in Western democracies, partly because of the freedom of the press. But we've now developed advocacy press. Obviously there have always been newspapers who leaned right or leaned left, and they kind of counterbalanced each other. But given the absolutely explosive spread of online news and sites that have sprung up that are very effective at propagating false stories, we've got some thinking to do, but there has to be some basic level of fact and evidence in our politics. Well, frankly, in all parts of our society." The former U.S. Secretary of State added that a Brexit no deal would put pressure on businesses and the disruption could be quite serious. MPs can block no-deal Brexit, says Shadow Chancellor John McDonnell. Britain must not pin its hopes on a U.S. deal because Donald Trump doesn't believe in trade and was on the verge of pulling out of existing agreements with its biggest trading partners, she warned. Mrs. Clinton told BBC One's The Andrew Marr Show, "I think it would be a very big disadvantage to Britain. I mean, no deal meaning no preferential trade deals, which means products in Britain would not have the kind of easy access to the European market that you've had under EU membership. It could very well mean that there would be more pressure on businesses in Britain, if not to leave completely, at least also have sites and employment elsewhere in Europe. I think that the disruption for Britain could be, quite serious." Jeremy Corbyn. Theresa May risking UK jobs meltdown over Brexit. President Trump has said it is possible the US will pull out of the North American Free Trade Agreement NAFTA, struck more than 2 decades ago with Mexico and Canada. Asked about the UK's trading future with America, Mrs. Clinton said, "Well, yes, but you're making a trade deal with someone who says he doesn't believe in trade. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out over the next few years. He looks like he's on the verge of taking us out of NAFTA rather than reworking NAFTA. Our biggest trading partners in the world are Canada and Mexico. So these will have real-world economic consequences." The prospect of no deal has become increasingly in the spotlight after talks in Brussels continued to be deadlocked. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has said the Brexit process will take longer than we initially thought, blaming delays on Britain's failure to settle its financial obligations. The EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, said talks on issues including the divorce bill had not made sufficient progress for him to be able to recommend moving on to the second phase of negotiations, covering trade.